Welcome into the Warchant.com report. I'm Jeff Cameron alongside Gene Williams and Corey Clark. They're with Warchant. I'm with ESPN Radio. Great to be with you. The Noles go to 2-2. Before we get to that, 3:30 ESPN2 on the road this weekend against Louisville back in the ACC. Any reason to be encouraged, Gene, after getting a victory there? 37 points is an offensive explosion compared to what we've seen up to this point, and a win much needed.
Yeah, I mean, anything's better than what we had in the last couple of weeks before that, that's for sure. Yeah, it's somewhat encouraging. I mean, especially those first couple drives, I think, because you came out, you executed, you moved the ball down, you scored twice in a row, really 3 times in a row. If Jacques Patrick doesn't have that fumble, I mean, you kind of had the feeling they were going to go in and score again, which is, it's a positive that you were able to, the offense clicked a little bit, you went down and did that, but how did they handle adversity? They fumbled the ball. They did not get in the end zone for 9 more series after that fumble with Jacques Patrick. So a little discouraging there that they kind of imploded a lot. Obviously, you had all the turnovers. That stuff's got to get cleaned up. But look, it's baby steps. From what we've seen those first 3 games, it was the best, at least short period, we saw the offense click for the first time under this system. So small signs of progress, yes, Jeff, a little encouraging, I'd say.
Yeah, I would think so. Obviously, they put up point totals and total yardage numbers that we haven't seen up to this point, and that's something to be encouraged by. Corey, what else, beyond not turning the football over, would you want to see from this offense?
Yeah, I mean, more points is always nice, right? No, more than anything really is the running game. That has to get – and I don't know. I guess it just can't get figured out. I mean, there's just so much they can do, and it's not enough. It's not going to be enough this year. But you can't average, if you average less than 3 yards a carry against Northern Illinois, and they got plenty of at-bats. They got over 50 rushing attempts, couldn't get anything sustained on the ground. That when you talk about what encouraged you about Saturday, and there was some things to be encouraged by, the thing that, in my opinion, to be discouraged by, even more than the turnovers, was just the complete and utter lack of a running game. Until Rasul came in there at the end, the running backs did absolutely nothing in the second half. And that to me, that's what this offense is predicated on, man. That's what he's done the last 3 years at South Florida and Oregon. He had top 12 rushing offenses in the country. Right now, these cats are like in the 120s.
Not good.
No, not great.
I'll say this: 5.3 yards per play on the whole is better than what Iowa did against that Northern Illinois defense. It's better than what Utah did against that Northern Illinois defense. The one thing Northern Illinois did have was a good defense. So that's an encouraging sign. It's not great, you're right. The running game wasn't prolific or anything, but they stuck with it. Later on, it opened up with the play action pass deep to Murray and Terry. So a little something that you can be happy about. The ACC is not good, folks. If that's a newsflash to you, you haven't been paying attention. Obviously, Clemson's really good. But when we asked the question, Gene, about what's it going to look like the rest of the year, when you see Boston College go on the road and get blown out by 0-3 Purdue,
now you're fighting Adasio's there.
I actually warned of that upset because Purdue was the best 0-3 team you'll ever find. Grand total of 7 points in their 3 losses is the difference. Yeah. And so they came out hungry and they got a win there. And then Virginia Tech embarrassed themselves in a way that is historically significant, losing to Old Dominion, who had just come off a loss, I think, to Liberty.
40-point loss to Liberty.
Yeah, so that was something to behold there. You don't see that too frequently. Basically, this conference is Clemson, followed by an average Miami team, and nobody else. So that should encourage you.
I was going to say, Jeff, the glass can be half full. You can lament that the ACC is awful. How can we be in this conference? Go, wait a minute. Maybe Florida State does have still an outside shot at bowl eligibility when you see these teams now looking very good. Louisville coming up, we'll talk about that more in the next segment. Winnable game. Wake Forest maybe looks a little bit more winnable. It does. Maybe even BC looks winnable now. So, I mean, you throw that in there. NC State, okay. Miami, maybe an upset. You got the Gators at the end of the year. They're no juggernaut. So maybe that daunting schedule doesn't look quite as daunting now. So it gives you just a sliver of hope that maybe you could become bowl eligible, but I think it has to start this weekend. If you're going to do that, I don't think you can. Louisville may be the worst team or one of the bottom 2 or 3 in the league. If you're going to be able to win, get that bowl eligibility, you have to win some conference games, and this is one of those conference games you're going to have to win.
What's the one thing you have to see from this team other than a win on Saturday against Louisville to believe they have a shot at bowl eligibility?
I mean, more of the same from the defense, I think. I thought the defense on Saturday was really physical. They got to start creating turnovers. Northern Illinois figures out a way to put helmets on balls and have them go flying out of the but Florida State somehow still can't do that. But I do think you're laughing at the helmets on the balls.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I mean, you got to do it, Jeff. I mean, that's what we're doing here. What are we teaching?
Yeah, you do.
But you got to create some turnovers, and I think that a lot of that starts with the pass rush. And I thought the defense played really well at times.
Well, we're going to get to the defense, so you can't continue on about stats or anything like that.
I wasn't.
Okay, I'm just letting you know.
Say
That's coming up. I know you don't follow the script, but that's coming up.
But what I wanted to see is more of a pass rush from the defense. And another fast start. I mean, I think if they can have a fast start on the road, I think that would be another positive step for it's a young football team, man. There are not many seniors on this team. A lot of these guys are coming back. Now that's good and bad news. A lot of these guys are coming back. They haven't had a lot of success on the road, this football team. In the last couple of years, I'm talking about.
The kind of change that we all want to see from this football team is going to come from the younger players. If you're looking to latch on to something this year that makes you feel better about where we're going, you're going to watch a Jaden Woodby. You're going to watch the Tamorian Terry. You're going to watch yes, that's right. You're going to watch the young guys because they're the guys that give you a chance to see something much better than what we're currently seeing. It's not the veterans that were on a team that just laid down last year against Boston College or quit against Louisville. This is going to be a team of the young guys taking ownership. And I think you do see enough evidence, in particular on defense, of those young guys. They hit a little harder. They play with a little bit more passion. They have a little bit more what for. And I think that's the thing you're looking to each week. Obviously, we want to see wins. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Warchant.com report and we preview the Louisville game.
It's football season in Tallahassee, and the only place to go for FSU apparel and merchandise is Garnet and Gold. Locally owned and operated by Seminoles for Seminoles for nearly 40 years. Garnet and Gold has the best selection of FSU merchandise in town, but what we really sell is tradition and passion to serve you, the true Seminole fans, at all three of our locations, West Pensacola Street, Killarn, and our flagship store across from Regal Cinema. Online at garnetandgold.com. Shop local and go Noles.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Let's take a look at this defense. Florida State, actually, if you're excited about something, I think it is on defense right now. They've been pretty consistent, certainly in stopping the run, Corey, and that's something that obviously when you're trying to compare and contrast to what they were previous under Charles Kelly, what they are now, what do you like from Harlan Barnett? I guess it's got to start with stopping the run and I suppose red zone defense.
I think the big thing when you talk about a football season is you go from week to week and the improvements that you're looking for. Well, against Syracuse, they gave up 222 yards rushing. Most of that in the second half. Obviously, they were tired because they couldn't get off the field. They were on the field the whole game.
Exhausted, yeah.
But they were exhausted. But they also didn't show that the physicality, the toughness, the mental toughness that you need in that moment. So for them to come back the next week, I know it's against a porous offense, not a very good offense at all. Jordan Lynch ain't walking through that door, Huskies fans. He ain't. It's a bad offense. But to hold them to 6 yards rushing, and the tailbacks, I think, had 18 yards of those. I mean, just no semblance of a running game at all, so much so that they gave up on even trying. I think that's a good sign, man. I thought that was a good sign that the linebackers were physical, the defensive line and the interior was really good, and that's something to build on. That they saw a weakness. They had a weakness in the Syracuse game. They gave up too many yards up the middle, and they just squashed it the next week against a worse offense, but they showed improvements. I think that's a big deal.
Harlan Barnett said when he got here that the number one thing they would seek to accomplish in his first year here is they would stop the run. And I think, save for when they were exhausted in the second half against Syracuse, they've done that. However, there are some things I should say that are lacking. Gene, what hasn't happened for you in this defense so far that you'd like to see improve?
The coverage breakdowns. I mean, the two scores Northern Illinois got was a guy he got open. I mean, it seems like every game there's a couple big breakdowns in the secondary, and you can't continue to do that if you're going to win some of these close games. You can't keep giving that up time and time again. And then also, easy is the turnovers thing. Now, what's interesting, they've actually forced 8 fumbles. I don't know if you're aware of that. They've got one.
They can't get
Well, part of it is luck, Jeff, and part of it's want to. And that ball's on the ground, you got to get there and get that. And you had the Brooks trying to do the scoop and score. If he goes in that thing and fights for the ball, he probably gets the turnover. Now, I know you want to make the big play, and it's tempting for those. They see those ESPN highlights. The defenders want to pick that up and get on ESPN. But, I mean, sometimes you just got to fight for the ball. So I think those two things, they can clean those things up a little bit. I think fans are going to be pretty happy with this defense.
Yeah, I think the defense is the number one thing they got going for them right now. I think it will continue to improve. I think Harlan has been a breath of fresh air. They want to attack. They want to do that. They don't always get home. They really struggle with the pass rush. Brian Burns, again, not off to a good year. You just don't see anybody able to consistently get pressure on the quarterback and at least bring him to the ground. They make a move, but they don't really get to him and bring him down, and that's been a problem. Let's look ahead to Louisville. They've got their own problems. This is a team right now, 2-2 like Florida State. They scored all of 3 points points in their last game against Virginia. People calling for Bobby Petrino's head, and I can understand it. They scored 14 points against Bama, 20 against Western Kentucky, and 3 versus Virginia, which I mentioned there. And that stadium, which is recently expanded, is half empty these days. They're not happy with Bobby.
Well, they're not a fun team to watch, and I think a lot of their problems on offense. I was thinking about it. I kind of equate it to last year with Florida State without Dalvin. Dalvin masked so many problems that Florida State had in 2015 and 2016 just because he was a transcendent running back, just an incredible college running back. He masked a lot of the issues. Well, when he was gone, all of a sudden those things were illuminated and they were highlighted. And you're like, oh, wait, we can't block anyone. Cam Akers is a good running back, but it doesn't matter. He's not Dalvin. He's not the guy that turns in a 12-yard gain into an 80-yard gain. And so I think the same thing's going on with Louisville. They had this freak of an athlete at quarterback for the last 3 years that masked a lot of problems, and receivers were able to get open because so many people were worried about him running. Well, that's not a case anymore, and so they had nothing working for him at all on offense.
Puma Pass has been terrible. In fact, they benched him. Completing 50% of his passes at this point is not going to get it done. You know,
his middle name is incomplete.
Yeah,
Heyo.
I interviewed Des Fitzpatrick at the ACC meetings, their best receiver. I think he thought big things were happening there. That Louisville offense has been completely stagnant. They're frustrated. How do they compare defensively to what we've seen up to this point in the season?
Not a whole lot better on defense, Jeff, really. I mean, probably pretty similar to Syracuse. Actually, statistically, they're a little bit worse than Syracuse. They gave up 204 yards rushing to Virginia, not exactly known as a running team. So they've struggled there. Now, can FSU take advantage? FSU's played bad rush defense teams before, haven't really done much. Not very good against the pass either. They've got 6 sacks in three games. Okay. They've only got 2 interceptions, too. So, I mean, you have an opportunity, I think, to throw against this team a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out right now, but not very strong on that side of the ball. Just, again, kind of like offense, nothing really jumps out at you about that defense.
I'm going to tell you this. In terms of watching Louisville, I tortured myself. I watched the Virginia game. I watched that game. And one thing I'll say about this is, you know, when you're witnessing a group of kids give up on a staff like we saw last year here at Doak Campbell Stadium and Jimbo Fisher. Yeah, we saw that. This Louisville team wants to quit. If you're watching them right now, if Florida State can go out and get a lead early in this game, it's a big if, I know. But if they can, I think this Louisville team's on the cusp of quitting. They amassed under 300 yards last week. They have nothing going for them right now. The fans have turned on them. We'll see. Obviously, if they get a lead and they think there's an opportunity, and they are 2-2, but you got to find a way to jump on them. And I think if Florida State can do that, we could be talking about a 3-2 football team on the next Warchant.com report. Speaking of which, yeah, I know.
3-2.
We'll give you the rundown of where you can watch the game and all that good stuff coming up, and also our picks when we come back. Keys to the game on the Warchant.com report.
Hey, this is John in Greenville, South Carolina.
This is Eric from New Haven, Connecticut. My name's Jared. I'm from Mobile, Alabama.
Justin from Oklahoma.
This is Ranye from Marshall, Georgia.
This is Terrell calling from Texas.
This is Josh from St. Louis, Missouri.
This is Roderick from North Carolina.
Wake up, Corey. Wake up, Aslan. It's Gibby. Still coming to you guys from East Village in Manhattan, New York City.
This is Kevin. I'm up here in Radford, Virginia.
It's Chris from beautiful sunny Phoenix.
Sam Wright, all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hey, this is Josh from South Dakota.
Just wanted to call and say love the show.
First of all, I want to start off by saying I love you guys' show.
I really appreciate the show.
Great show, guys. Really enjoy it.
I love the podcast.
Big fan of the show.
Keep up the good work, guys.
Keep up the good work. Love the show.
Wake up!
Wake up! Wake up!
Wake up! Wake up, Warchant!
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Obviously, game day Saturday, 3:30 on the road at Louisville. If you want to check out the many places you can watch the game, if you're from out of town, wherever it may be, go to the Warchant.com game day page for the information there and a complete list of game watching locations throughout the country. Subject matter here that we can all pontificate on here. The interim AD, David Coburn, is cutting back on spending in the athletic department. We've all heard those rumors. Now it's official. Gene, I'll start with you. Why is this happening, and how does it impact football, if at all?
Well, it's going to impact football. I mean, I've heard they're kind of like not really touching recruiting so much, but I mean, a lot of the other stuff, there's going to be some cutbacks. I think it's happening a lot. I mean, we forget Florida State's a really young university. Scholarships aren't endowed here like they are at a lot of the other competing schools. That's always going to be an issue. and I'm beating the dead horse, but the whole ACC contract, the contract with the ACC, the TV deal is not as good as it is at the SEC. It's not as good as the Big Ten. You got to keep up with them in terms of facility, support staff, all that's tough to do when you're losing $10 to $20 million difference every single year because of that. And then finally, I mean, it's a smaller thing, but FSU has a huge commitment to Olympic sports. Let's do the biggest competitor we have in the ACC, Clemson. Their commitment 0 to Olympic sports. They were 52 in the Directors' Cup. FSU 9. That's great, but they've made a decision that we are going to go all in on football. Ask the average fan, would they rather be top 10 in the Directors' Cup or be a perennial top 10, top 5 football team? What answer are you going to get?
Yeah, football is king here, but I will say I think there's a way to find balance there. And
it's tough.
It is tough. Nobody said it would be easy. Florida State has done yeoman's work in that. It is a young university. You don't have the fully endowed scholarships that you just referenced, and you also don't have 200 years worth of graduates rolling over money back to the university. You can't necessarily fix that right away. That's a time thing. But I don't think this is a financial crisis. When you talk to the people over there, if you talk to coaches, they always think it's a crisis. But we're talking about a pretty small cut or a stop on spending, but it's not affecting recruiting. And that's you can that's the biggest thing here. But fans don't like to hear it, especially not when you're 2-2 and looking as poor as Florida State's looking.
I mean, but I guess my counter to what Gene was saying, and all that is true, is that football will always eat first. When it comes to spending at the Florida State University in the athletic department, football will get what it wants before other things. You're not going to take care of the tennis courts as opposed to building a football facility. Right. And they did in 2013. I think they finished top 10, top 15 in the Directors' Cup, and also managed to win a football title. It can be done. It is harder at a place like Florida State, but I think, Florida State has always prided itself, at least in the last 15 or 20 years, on being an everything school. And Florida is an everything school. Now, Florida has more money than Florida State, but Florida is an everything school, and if you're chasing that school, if that's your rival, you kind of want to compete with that rival. I get it, but I also get, what good did it do you that golf finished in the top 8? If you can't afford certain things for the football program. But I guess my overall point is that I don't think it's going to be affected that much, if at all. I just think they're going to, they're still paying a defensive coordinator $980,000. That's a lot of money. They're paying their assistant coach a lot of money, and their head coach is getting $5 million, and they just started a campaign to build a football-only facility.
Part of this is they also don't get paid the Texas A&M money until 2019. They're getting money back from that university. It hasn't started yet. That's a part of the problem. So they're paying out without getting anything coming in just yet. And let's not beat around the bush. Another thing that hurts the budget? Losing football games, sucking, which is what they've done for the last 2 years and now again this year. When apathy sets in, people don't renew season tickets. They don't come to football games and spend a ton of money on concessions. They don't buy shirts. All of it ties together.
And they don't do booster contributions. And isn't that the concern here? Just looking ahead, I mean, you're right now, very little short-term effect. But let's see, they do have a 3-9 season or whatever it is this year. Next year's schedule is not very good. It's an awful home schedule. That's going to really hurt season ticket sales. And the reason people get season tickets, part of that is their booster contribution. So you worry about that kind of, like you said, losing on the field can exacerbate this problem.
Well, and also when you take home games and you throw them in Atlanta or Dallas or Orlando or Jacksonville, why don't we play a game here in Tallahassee? One of these big name teams come to Doak Campbell Stadium instead of passing everything off and then telling people it's for money and then cry about money.
Mm-hmm. Preach, brother.
It's not going to work. All right, here we go. Let's get some keys to the game. Corey, 3 keys to the game. Let's go.
Okay, I think you got to establish a running game. You've heard of that. I think you got to do that. You have to win the turnover battle. And
I sense some negativity from Gene, folks. I'm just telling you.
just try to establish it. Even if it doesn't get established, establish that you're going to try. You got to win the turnover battle. And quite frankly, they've been awful at that here recently. They've had 2 games where they've had 4 or more turnovers. That can't happen at all. It just can't. And create some turnovers. That would be nice. And keep that special teams going, baby. Keep that special teams going. Logan Tyler had a nice punt there at the end when they kind of needed it.
And
late in the game in the 4th quarter,
Ricky
was splitting the uprights. They let a ball roll all the way until it was conclusion, until they touched it
dead. They didn't stop it early. How about that?
They're starting to grow, people. You're going to really love this team at the end.
Let me tell you this. It sounds crazy, but I believe when you got a team on the cusp of laying down, go score first. Get off to another fast start. Get them thinking about how bad their season is. And before you start reminiscing about your poor season, jump out on top.
Yeah, no, that's a big one right there. The one thing I'll say in the turnover margin, you don't have to win it, just break even.
Yeah.
I think we'd all take that right now. As much
Sure.
as they go down 4 or 5 negative in the hole every game, that's not going to help you right there. You know, the thing I think there is going to be an opportunity to throw the football. I like Corey. If you can run the football, you're going to win the game. I just have my doubts that they can do that. I think there's an opportunity to throw the football. We saw that last week. They can throw the ball effectively. Leave that H-back in there. Help that pass protection so DeAndre Francois wasn't getting murdered from the outside by those defensive ends. And then throw the football around. You have the opportunity to do that against Louisville if you can't run the football. So I think they do those things. And like you said, Jeff, jump out on them early.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I think Louisville's ripe to lay down. Let's see if you can get out to another quick start. All right, weekly picks time. Syracuse is at Clemson. Clemson favored by 21 points there. I'm taking Clemson given the points. I think Syracuse is terrible. I know they pounded us, but we're terrible too. Who you got?
Give me the points on that one.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just.
You
I don't
believer
think.
in the
I think
Cuse?
I'm not. But I just think Clemson's kind of like Florida State in 2014. I think they're just kind of mailing it in. Think they're just going to roll.
Well, Lawrence is starting at quarterback now, and so I think that's a good move for them.
That's why I was going to go with Clemson. I think they got some juice with him, and they're going to want to show, oh, we got our guy now, this super duper star. We're going to put up 50 or 60 in this game.
All right, so you and I take Clemson. Gene's got Syracuse. How about Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats with a huge win against Mississippi State? Can they handle prosperity? They're hosting South Carolina. Kentucky giving a point. Basically a pick 'em. Who you got?
Kentucky all the way. They're rolling right now. They're at home. South Carolina,
Yeah, I agree.
I like South Carolina. It is the game that Kentucky football is just destined to lose.
It makes sense, but I'll take them.
But they beat Florida this year for the first time in 87 years.
That means they're definitely losing Saturday.
Yeah, all right. Ohio State's given 4 at Penn State. Fun football game here. Probably the best game of the weekend without question. I'm going to take Ohio State and give the 4.
You know I hate taking Urban, but I got no choice.
Well, you know, he'll be there for years ignoring spousal abuse as long as he keeps winning games like this. Yeah.
As long as his heart stays strong.
His heart holds up, and his wife continues to withhold texts.
Right.
He'll be all right, yeah.
So is it Ohio State's giving or
No,
giving
they're giving
4?
4. They're giving 4.
I'm taking Penn State.
Hope you're right, Corey.
West Virginia is giving 4 to Texas Tech. Hey, don't look now. Texas Tech is actually having a good season.
They just beat the tar out of Oklahoma State.
They look like they're competent at the very least. West Virginia giving 4. Greer's having a great year as we anticipated he would. Your thoughts on West Virginia?
That's in Morgantown.
No, it's on the road.
Well, then, see ya, West Virginia.
That's the end of that.
You ain't going to Lubbock.
Oh,
you don't go into Lubbock.
Just roll into Lubbock
and
as
beat
they
the
say.
Red Raiders.
I don't know, man. Give me the Hillbillies. They seem to be for real to me.
Which group of hillbillies?
Well, that's true. Good point. Good point.
All right, you got West Virginia.
Mountaineers.
Okay, the more historic hillbillies.
Yes.
I got you.
I think that whole area up there is more the origin of it.
Yeah, so, well, the coonskin caps give it away. All right, Florida's at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is giving 7. Mississippi State licking their wounds after that beatdown, but I'll take them to bounce back here. They can run the football against Florida's defense. I'll take Mississippi State and give the 7. I think they pound the Gators.
I think Mississippi State wins a close one, but I'm going to take Florida in the points.
Okay. Really? Okay. No. I think Florida, especially on the road, not very good. Mississippi State.
Stanford's at Notre Dame. Notre Dame giving 4.5. They made a quarterback change as well. Seemed to ignite their offense against Wake Forest. Anyhow, Stanford with a miracle finish on the road, obviously, against Oregon and one of the more improbable comeback victories in overtime. I'm going to take Stanford getting 4.5.
Really? Okay.
I'm just too rich for my blood. I think it's a 3-point game.
Yeah, that was a great game to watch, but really they were outplayed by Oregon. Oregon should have won the game. I think they're a solid Pac-12 team, but I still think Notre Dame at home is better that one. So I'll go ahead and take Notre Dame.
All right, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame as well. Okay. Stanford they were lucky to
Very
win that
lucky,
game.
but they survived and advanced.
Yeah, until South Bend.
They'll play good defense. We'll see. All right, here we go. Our prediction for Florida State and Louisville. Louisville is getting 6 points from Florida State. How about that? Vegas is looking at Louisville going, I see quit on you. I, at the end of last week, said I thought Florida State would cover at home. I think that they go on the road and get the win. 6 is too rich. I can't do that. I'll take Louisville plus 6.
Great minds, Jeff.
All right.
I got 17-13. Florida State, the Noles win a close one, but they do not cover.
All right.
I'm not convinced Florida State will score 6 points.
Okay, so you're going to take Louisville.
There's zero chance I'm taking this team until they prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, kids.
They just proved you wrong last week. They covered easily, buddy.
That's Northern Illinois on the road. Prove me wrong. Go on the road. Put up multiple touchdowns, and then I'll take you next week.
Starts this week.
There's no way I'm taking this team.
You're not taking them the week after. They play Miami the week after.
Oh, man. Miami don't want any of that.
Stop it. You're not taking this guy's full of false promises. Good work, Aslan. For Corey, for Gene, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you next time on the Warchant.com report.